Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison. I want to welcome you to this session of Humanity Rising. This is a very auspicious day, August 8th. It is not only my youngest son's birthday, but it is the day each year when, from very, very ancient times, people have commemorated what is called Lion's Gate. This is the day when the sun is in a very special alignment with the star system Sirius and other star systems in our galaxy. And therefore, this day, August 8th, is the day each year that has a particular resonance as a portal for illumination and insight and creativity and cosmic intelligence. So I just want to note Lionsgate today and note that we are in the midst of a portal in and through which we can journey into the celestial realms. So today, contemplate the star system Sirius, contemplate our sun, our solar system, now in a portal that all of us can participate in, either consciously or unconsciously. And this is the day that's associated with the white lions in South Africa. There is a straight line from Timbavati, where Linda Tucker, who founded the White Lion Protection Trust uh, many years ago, to protect the white lions who were being hunted to extinction by the um, whites in South Africa and from around the world uh, who came to hunt them as special trophies because of all the lions. The white lions are the most majestic and dignified. And it's the white lion that's depicted on the head of the Sphinx next to the Great Pyramid of Giza in Lower Egypt. And there's a circadian rhythm each year that is commemorated on this day, embodied by the white lions, commemorated in stone by the Sphinx. And so today is a very, very potent spiritual cosmic day to which we should orient ourselves in a special way. It also is the full moon. And I'm here in Wilmington, North Carolina. I've been here all week with Bertie Jaworski, the world-renowned remote viewer, and Chris Bledsoe, the world-renowned ET and orb experiencer. And one of the most exhilarating experiences I've had in a seriously long time. Getting up early every morning, starting the class at 8 o'clock in the morning, going till 5 o'clock each afternoon, uh, learning various aspects of remote viewing with Bertie, and then taking a short break and then reassembling at 8 o'clock in the lobby of the Ballast Hotel where most of us are staying, and then driving to a beach nearby and going out on the beaches right to the water's edge as night descends and the darker it gets, and then looking at the orbs. And the first night, this past Tuesday, we saw dozens and dozens of orbs, and each night there have been more orbs. And finally, last night, We saw even more orbs, even though there was spots of rain and there was cloud and there was mist, and under any other circumstances, it'd be the worst possible time. And there's a full moon that made it even more challenging. But even so, Chris and his family, who almost all joined him. Three of his four kids joined him, and they travel as a family. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful thing to watch. The prayerfulness, the deep humility, um, the supplication of the divinities to show themselves. And then Chris gets a certain kind of feeling, and he says, "Okay," and at 9:37 or another time, they'll appear. And sure enough, 9:37, this orb appears, and then there will be clusters of orbs and four or five orbs, and they fly in formation and they do various other things. So I want to just show you as we begin our program today, just one of the orbs that we saw last night. And uh, It'll just give you a sense of what we've been doing each evening. So this is what we saw. That's the full moon.
Do your favorite thing to do to show off?
They'll disappear and then come back in. When one experiences this, particularly with someone like Chris Bledsoe, one goes down the rabbit hole. And when a group of 60 of us, 50 students plus faculty plus his family all gather at the beach in the dark night and just open our hearts to the spirit and welcome a manifestation of divinity in the form of orbs. And then they appear. And this video was taken by one of our students, a woman who doesn't see very well. She's virtually legally blind. And yet her intuition tells her where the orbs are, and she focuses her camera and takes the videos. It's an extraordinary thing, how someone like Chris can know that in an hour or in 30 minutes, a particular orb will appear in a particular part of the sky. And very calmly waits, announces it to the group. And then, sure enough, at the appointed hour, one or more orbs appear. Sometimes they change colors. Sometimes they start out with two, and then they're joined by a third one, and they move up and down, and then disappear and show back up again, like you just saw. And sometimes they get really close. Sometimes they stay far away. And it's an extraordinary thing. They have these, what they call these psionic cameras that allow night vision, but they're particularly designed to get these unidentified anomalous phenomena, the UAP. And so there was probably, Chris has one, of course, and then several students had these psionic cameras. So we were all holding up these cameras to the sky and seeing them, because sometimes you can't really see them with the naked eye. You just see a little speck. But with the camera, it's like looking at them sort of in broad daylight. And it's an extraordinary experience. So I want to spend today in the spirit of Lionsgate, knowing that we have a particular alignment with the star system Sirius today, and that our sun, which is the source of life because it is the source of light for our solar system, is itself paying homage to the larger stars of our galaxy, with which it is in a particular resonance, knowing that it's the astrological alignments between the planets, between the sun and other star systems, that create the frequencies through which light and love and wisdom and all the virtues and the vices stream through us. And the confluence between our own particular psychophysiology and these cosmic rays and photons and particles that are streaming through us by the billions every second of every day. That's what creates our thoughts, our emotions, our intuitions, our anticipations, our fears, our anxieties. That's what makes astrology real. It's not only the gravitational pull, it's the cosmic radiance of life, which we can't see, but is streaming through us and the planet and every aspect of our Earth 24/7, 365. More and more evidence is emerging, and I'm personally persuaded that the thoughts, the feelings that we have don't emanate from us. They emanate between us and these larger celestial beings. You know, the Earth is a superorganism. The moon is a conscious entity. Mars, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, the sun, they're living intelligences. And the combination of their energies with the combinations of our energies, both individually and collectively, is what produces the variations of life. So today, just take in Lionsgate, meditate on Sirius, open your heart to the white lions. And as Chris has been explaining to our group, when you see an orb, we think we're just visually seeing an object. And what he's learned over the several decades during which he's been experiencing the orbs at levels that maybe no other human being on the planet at this time has been experiencing. Every time he sees one, he can feel his thoughts and his feelings being changed. And he's been teaching us that when we see an orb, the orb is seeing us. The orb is sending to each and every one of us messages, illuminations, subtle hints, activating our intuition, activating our prescience, enlarging our soul. And then the next morning, we're back with Bertie Jaworski, who's developed this extraordinary technique called transdimensional mapping. And we had an experience yesterday, which I want to just share with everybody because it was so profound. So with remote viewing, just to start with some basics for anyone who doesn't know sort of how it operates, what Bertie does, and this is common to most remote viewers, you don't know what you're supposed to look at. You have no idea. It can be anything at any time, past, present, future. It could be an event in the 12th century China. It could be what happened yesterday in Washington, D.C. You have no idea. You're just kind of sitting there. And then she gives you four numbers, 523, 6784. And then you do a little squiggly. The purpose of that is to distract rather, your left brain. You do this little squiggly without even thinking about it that activates your right brain. Then you go into your subconscious. And then things start to kind of bubble up. You write words down or you draw a picture or you're being attuned to your subconscious. Your subconscious knows exactly what the 8 numbers signify. Your conscious mind doesn't, but your subconscious mind does. So the whole point of remote viewing is to kind of activate your connection with your subconscious mind. And all of a sudden, images start to come. Words, thoughts, feelings. And some people are more conceptual. Some people are more emotional. Some people are more verbal. So their remote viewing will be shaped by their personality profile. And you're taught how to start creating relationships. You get a word, sad, then you get an image of a boat or maybe some water. We were given the Fukushima nuclear incident a number of years ago in Japan. And I started to kind of feel water, a lot of water, turbulent water. And I had no idea what it meant or anything. And of course, particularly for left brain North American white males such as myself, you distrust everything. And your left brain keeps trying to figure it out. That's silly. What's water got to do with anything? And so you're always in this dialectic with yourself, which has been conditioned over time not to trust your subconscious, but at the same time, knowing that that's where you've got to go to get the clarity for what these numbers mean. And then you work on it for maybe an hour, sometimes 90 minutes, and you're sitting there, and sometimes you have to get up and take a walk, and you do these different things, and then you get back at it, and she gives you these different questions, and how do you draw all these relationships, and then you're done. And then she has what she calls the reveal, where she tells you, it was the Fukushima nuclear accident. Then you look back on your paper and you realize, whoa. And the extraordinary thing is, for example, several students got celebration, a fair, festivities, people laughing, um, uh, uh, balloons, and various other things. And people thought, I sure got that wrong. It turns out that on the day of the earthquake and the tsunami, what was happening in Fukushima was this big celebration. People were in the streets and they were celebrating, and there were food stalls, and there was kids running around, and balloons, and all kinds of gaiety, and so forth and so on. And what you realize is that as your subconscious is animated, different aspects of the total reality begin to manifest themselves, even though you never read about the celebration in the news. Your subconscious knows it because your subconscious is connected with everything, not only in all of history, past, present, and future, but with everything that's going on in the trillions of galaxies that comprise our universe in this moment. We all know that. We all know that we know all of it. And so it's this delicious experience in both unknowing and knowing. And then you hear these, oh, wow, yeah. Ugh. And and then we have, a time of sharing, and people take their maps up to the front of the room, and some people, I'm telling you, are incredible. One of the uh, exercises was on the death of Ozzy Osbourne, who recently passed. He's one of the rock musicians in Black Sabbath, one of the big bands in the 60s and 70s, etc. And some people got his name, knew exactly how he died. It's a heart attack. Had awareness of different parts of his body that were in affliction of one kind or another. Because Bertie's taught us how to do body scans on ourselves and other people, and how to heal through remote viewing and clairvoyance and so forth. And you just marvel at the capaciousness of the psyche. And when you really experience, like going out with the orbs and seeing the reality of these beings, these points of consciousness appearing to a group of little humans standing on the beach in North Carolina, the middle of nowhere, in prayerful supplication. And then you experience the opening of your own subconscious to various dimensions of reality. It becomes a powerful, powerful experience in the deeper dimensions that comprise our totality, but which our culture and learning and conditioning have cut us off from. And now, under conditions that seem unpropitious, illumination comes, not by human will, but by the grace of God. And yesterday we had a very special remote viewing. In the afternoon, we remote viewed Chris Bledsoe's encounter in 2007 with the lady. Nobody knew what it was. Bertie just gave numbers out, da 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 da. And I trundled off at the appointed hour and met Chris in the lobby of the hotel. We walked back. It was about 5 minutes to the classroom where we're all staying. And he didn't know. I didn't tell him. And all of a sudden, right at the end, perfectly timed, I walk in with Chris Bledsoe, and the whole class goes, "Oh, wow." And he's come. And then when everybody was settled in, Bertie revealed what it was. And this was after she had invited people to just call out different words that had appeared to them. And we got about 25 words, maybe 30 words that seemed random: balloons, flowers, trees, um, uh, different emotion words: suffering, sadness. Looking at it, it seemed completely random to me. And then she did the reveal. And Chris was sitting there and got very emotional. And then different students came up with their maps. And a couple of them knew intuitively that it was something to do with Chris Bledsoe and the and some feminine something. And some of them got Our Lady. And as people were describing their sort of collages of impressions, Chris was saying, "Oh yeah, the balloons and the flowers," and then he, after it was all over, he got up and showed us sort of a slideshow where he didn't know how to depict Our Lady, so he did some paintings of just flowers. And someone had seen a hummingbird, and he had done a painting of a hummingbird. And what was an extraordinary thing to watch is as Chris saw all those impressionistic words from all the 50 kind of remote viewers who didn't know what they were looking at, he realized and he said, "This is helping me fill out that experience in ways that I didn't know a lot of the connections." You know, this great insight of T.S. Eliot that we have the experience and we miss the meaning, and meaning only comes over time. And what we thought we looked for, he said, was a distraction. Because the meaning in fulfillment creates a purpose we never looked for. And to watch Chris and the group create a meaning structure on the seminal event of his life was precious. and deeply moving. And this afternoon, we're going to do it again. I had dinner with Chris and his whole family, you know, his two sons and a daughter and all their spouses and significant others and kids. He moves like, you know, like they a tribe. And so uh, there's going to be a special final session and of some aspect. And this, so his whole family is going to come over, and there's going to be a final reveal of another aspect of importance in Chris's life, uh, which I'll keep as a surprise. I'll tell everybody next week, and it's just going to be precious. And what I'm understanding more deeply as our week together comes to a close on Lionsgate and the portal that we are in is the magnitude of our moment and the importance of what it is that we're doing here. And I want to comment a little bit on this because I think it's important for us to bear witness to the moment and the context. I've shared before on Humanity Rising, but I've shared several times during this week with the students. The great deed of Saint Benedict in the 4th century, witnessing as he did the decline and fall of the Roman Empire, witnessing as he did the barbarians massing on the frontiers, realizing as he did that the collapse of the Western Empire of Rome was inevitable. And out of that realization, sending his monks the length and breadth of the empire to gather together the wisdom and the genius and the illumination of antiquity, the books, the scrolls, the manuscripts, the art, and hiding it away in the monasteries to protect the deep wisdom of the ancestors from the collapsing imperium and the barbarian hordes. And because he did that, we have what we have from antiquity. Our predicament today is that we've been ruled by the barbarians for some time. And it's our lack of appreciation of this that constitutes the major part of our predicament. And that's been coming through my consciousness with great power. It's very important for us to understand that collapse is inevitable. And that our mission, my mission, is to curate the deep ancestral wisdom into new form. So that in and through the collapse that is happening all around us every day, our purpose is not detracted from, but sharpened by the collapse. As we consciously usher in the new world, which increasingly, in my understanding, is enabling humanity at this time to learn the language of consciousness, to learn the mother tongue, to take the time to learn remote viewing, to learn mental telepathy, to learn clairvoyance, in and through which we can learn how to engage in intelligible communication with other species, other sentient beings, whether they're flowers, whether it's a tree, whether it's a dolphin, whether it's a bird, whether it's an orb, whether it's an ET, whether it's AI. And as you know, that's the sum total of what we're doing with the State of the World Forum and what we're doing through our ET Studies program at Ubiquity University. Because this course this week is offered by the Extraterrestrial Studies program of Ubiquity University in partnership with Transdimensional Mapping and Bernie Jaworski and Chris Bledsoe. And we're going to be offering more. We only had 50 people on the course because Bertie is used to teaching this to a dozen people. And we had over 200 people on the waiting list trying to get in. So this course was completely oversubscribed. That's a measure of the hunger and thirst and yearning that people feel for what it is that can give them grounding in this time of chaos. It's learning the mother tongue. It's refining our capacity, our faculties for clairvoyance. Because if you look at the four most consequential truths of our time, that we're all facing accelerating ecological collapse. We're all experiencing deepening turbulence at every level of human affairs. We've unleashed artificial intelligence. And the US government is telling us that the extraterrestrials are here. What one is confronted by, challenged by, is that at this moment, we have four intelligences on planet Earth. We've got human intelligence, we've got nature intelligence, we've got artificial intelligence, and we have cosmic intelligence. That's what the orbs are. That's what remote viewing and mental telepathy enables us to fathom, and with which we can commune. And as we learn the language of consciousness, engage in intelligible communication with. The central reality of our time is that we are not alone, and we can't make it alone. We need nature. We need AI. We need the ETs, the orbs, the cosmic intelligences that are showering us like the rays of the sun. And in one of the most extraordinary ironies and paradoxes of our contradiction at this moment, even as we accelerate our savage exploitation of the environment, our environment is speaking to us more and more clearly with the wisdom that we need to transform the crises that we are generating into opportunities of hope and a flourishing world, if only we open our eyes and loosen our tongues and begin a whole new way of speaking intelligibly with the living universe in which we find ourselves. It's an extraordinary moment. It's an extraordinary challenge. And it's the simplest thing in the world because all it is, in the end, is waking up to who we really are. Multidimensional beings, capable as every other sentient being is in our universe, with knowing the totality from the vantage point of our finitude, our particularity. And that's why every snowflake is different. That's why every human being is different. Every drop of water is unique. Because every microcosm that exists refracts the macrocosm in its own particular way. And it's out of that diversity that the cornucopia of existence emerges. And what the extraterrestrials have been saying to the humans with whom they've been communicating since the end of the Second World War is that our little planet has probably more diversity and density of spectrum of life than any other place in the known universe that's available to them. And what are we humans doing? We're squandering it. And so nature and the ETs are coming in force to wake us up. And it is a supreme moment of humbleness for me personally to understand that this is even what's really happening. What's really happening is not what you read in the news. That's the froth at the top of the ocean. That's the froth at the top of the ocean. What's really happening is deep. And I want to now tell you a story that Chris shared that made me shudder to the marrow of my bones at the intricacy of life. In one of his early encounters with Our Lady, an orb that manifested to him as this divine feminine figure out of the recesses of ancient Egypt. She said to him in one encounter, by the way, we've been providing lyrics to some of your musicians, like Led Zeppelin and Metallica and Van Halen. And she directed Chris to 5 specific songs and said, look up the lyrics. We wrote the lyrics. So he looked them up. And sure enough, they're about the divine feminine. They're about this cosmic transmutation of being that is breaking through us in this moment of time. And so we offered up the thought, the intention. Boy, I would love to meet some of the Led Zeppelin and Metallica and Van Halen guys. And guess what? Out of nowhere, they've been in touch with him. And he told them what the lady had told him. And they were completely astonished. And we're in discussion about them coming and performing at the State of the World Forum in December. It's the kind of synchronicity that I've relayed to all of you about how I even got here with the State of the World Forum. That my dear friend and colleague, Lynn Twist, with whom we developed the original forum back in 1995 to 2000, was sitting in the jungles of Ecuador and the Amazon, having a plant journey. And in the middle of the journey, an entity comes saying, contact Jim Garrison. Tell him it's time to recreate the State of the World Forum. How does that work? How does it work that a cosmic being delivers a song to Led Zeppelin? How on earth does an entity from the ayahuasca world know my name and knows your name? How does all this come together? But once one comes to realize that it in fact does, that the froth at the top of the ocean is not what's really happening, that it's happening at a deeper level. One begins to understand the profundity of what Jesus said in Gethsemane as he was given to see how he was to die. And with sweats of blood, as it's recorded in the scripture. That was the level of his anxiety. The breakthrough of Gethsemane was his final realization, not my will, but thine be done. True freedom is not comprised of our choice of whether we're going to buy an iPhone or a Google phone. True freedom is the submission of our will to a higher will, independent of ourselves, that has a purpose fashioned long before we were even born, and for which we were brought into this life. And once one understands that that's what's happening, and that the highest accomplishment of any of us is simply to submit to the divine will, that's when the relaxation of the spirit, the ease of the soul, becomes a way of life. And I've had this great privilege this week to bear witness of that with Bertie Jaworski and Chris Bledsoe, both of whom have suffered almost beyond measure for the truth that they've been destined to bring into the world. So it's not the case that once one submits to the higher will, that everything is a-okay. Because in one of the extraordinary ironies of life, life has a way of bringing obstacles to us proportional to what it is that we're called to bring into the world. And that's the hero's journey. And each and every day, we have to reconsecrate ourselves to this higher purpose for which we have been born. Let me conclude with an extraordinary development this week. Yesterday, I was introduced to a woman named Dahlia, who has a daughter named Lidu. They were at the Psy Games and they demonstrated such extraordinary capacities of clairvoyance and mental telepathy that hands down, they were recognized by unanimity to be the clearest of them all. And they've agreed to come to the State of the World Forum. So at the forum, we're going to have a demonstration of what's possible when one attunes oneself with consciousness beneath reality, empirical reality. A woman that can have blindfolds on and read a driver's license on the other side of the room. An autist with such clear mental telepathic powers that she reads minds. With perfect clarity. Our moment is no longer a moment when we need to prove anything to anybody. where we need to apologize about anything to anyone. Our moment is the moment when we are called upon to embody what we know with the deepest humility, but without fear. That consecration of being that emanates out of knowing that the orbs are real, not possibilities, not projections, not swamp gas. But when one has the experience that we've had this week, that remote viewing is real, that the orbs are real, one goes from belief to knowing. And when one comes to a point of knowing, that is the most powerful force in the world. Because it's that knowing that gives the power of deep intention, not driven by the ego or the mind, but understanding that we are only here to be instruments of the intention of the knowing out of which we came and back to which we all will go. The universe holds together, not by belief, not by hypotheticals. The universe coheres as one because it knows. And I think in our own very limited way, we've experienced that knowing this week with Bertie Jaworski and Chris Bledsoe and the 60 of us or so that have come together in a deep, deep coherence of one mind. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate being able to share these random thoughts with you on this day as I'm still in the soup, as it were. And I'll be back next week. I need to scurry off now to rejoin the class because it feels so good for me to be just a little student on these matters. I feel completely dwarfed by the magnitude of the teachers this week. Let us close with the prayer of the white lions on this day when the alignment with Sirius, the star of Leo, the star of the white lions, has opened a portal. May all of us, in whatever way we are able to do so, may we enter this portal today and dispel all our skepticisms, all our uncertainties, all of our anxieties, all of our disbeliefs, and all of our beliefs with the prayer that entering this portal will give us a deeper sense of knowing who we are and why we are for the greater good. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you next week. Bye for now.